Hi everybody, this is Jamie with Everything Airplanes. Welcome to my channel. On today's episode, I'm going to be bringing you the museum review I did for Fantasy of Flight Museum in Polk City, Florida. This museum was created and is owned by Kermit Weeks. He proudly claims that he has the largest private collection of aircraft in the world, and I don't doubt that. There are over 200 airplanes in this collection. Unfortunately, during my visit, I was not able to visit all 200 airplanes, but they did have a hangar that had about 20 airplanes in it, and I was very fortunate to have good success with the docents. And after explaining to them what I was there for, they were very gracious to let me get behind the ropes and videotape some of the aircraft, which you'll see in the video. This video is going to focus on the early airplanes that they have in the collection on display, the World War I airplanes, and some of the other unique articles that they have down there. There is a great collection of 1920s, 1930s race planes that I'll bring to you on a separate video, just because I want to give them the right amount of time to show you what they have down there and to discuss the airplanes at length. Also, they've got a great collection of old aircraft engines, which I'm very fond of, and I'll put that in the part 2 of this review also. Just want to thank all my Patreon supporters for your support, and I look forward to bringing you more content in the near future. Thanks, and I hope you enjoy the video. This is the beautiful Art Deco design main hangar that is at the Fantasy of Flight Museum. Apparently, most of the collection is in these hangars. I wasn't able to see that. They took us to a separate hangar where probably 20 to 25 airplanes were stored and on display. The entrance to that hangar is here. Funny story though, I was on my way in and I followed a car through a gate, and the gate had to be open for me to be allowed in. And shortly after that, I was getting my camera equipment ready, and the manager came out and asked me if I was part of the tour. Of course, I said no, and I explained to her what I was doing down there with Everything Airplanes and that I just wanted to get some pictures. Well, she asked me if I could leave, and I just asked her if it would be possible for me to take some pictures of the airplanes on the ramp. She graciously allowed me some access to the airplanes, and I was very fortunate to get pictures of the B-25, the C-47, the Spitfire, and more importantly, this Martin B-26 Marauder. Apparently, this is the only airworthy airplane in the world, and I was very fortunate to get a chance to get out and get some pictures of this airplane. And I've got some video. I did a video walk around of the airplane, and I'll be posting that separately on one of my video databases for my website. So I'll share that with my Patreon members when I get it finished. But just a real neat opportunity to get out on the ramp and see some of these airplanes, to get some footage of a very rare airplane before I was able to get into the hangar on the other side of the field. Modeled from a combat-tested British de Havilland design, the DH-4 was the only U.S.-built aircraft to see combat during World War I. During World War I, the Air Service used the DH-4 primarily for day bombing, observation, and artillery spotting. The first American-built DH-4 arrived in France in May 1918, and the 135th Aero Squadron flew the first DH-4 combat mission in early August. By war's end, 1,213 DH-4s had been delivered to France. The example you see here is a reproduction built sometime after the year 2000. This is a 1915 Newport 17. Constructed of wood, as were most of the aircraft of the time, the wing arrangement was unusual. The upper wing had a normal two-spar structure, but the lower wing only had one, an arrangement called a sesquiplane, or 1.5 plane. The design was originally intended to keep the lower drag of the monoplane, but have the structural strength of a biplane. While a smaller wing did improve the pilot's downward visibility, it unfortunately would sometimes fail due to the structure twisting under high loads. Powered by the 110 horsepower Lerone rotary engine, the aircraft was agile and fast climbing. It reached the war front by March of 1916 and was flown by the French, British, Italian, and Belgian squadrons. American volunteers flying for France before America entered the war also flew these, as well as the famous Lafayette Escadrille. Initially, the Newport 17 had a Lewis machine gun mounted on the top of the wing that would fire outside the propeller arc. This was mainly responsible for the ending of the Fokker scourge era brought on by the German development of a method to fire a machine gun through the propeller. Only one original Type 17 survives today. During the war, the Germans captured a Newport 17. Impressed with its performance, they designed and constructed a German copy. This aircraft is a reproduction built from those German Rosendahl drawings, as no French drawings exist. It was constructed by Larry Curie of Tacoma, Washington in 1971. It had only 12 hours on it when Kermit purchased the plane in 1989. The aircraft was used in the making of the 2006 film Flyboys. Stability and maneuverability were acceptable, but the aircraft was considered underpowered and lightly armed with only one machine gun. The order for the other two was canceled. All was not lost, however, as the Air Corps needed advanced trainers, and after some modifications, 460 were ordered with the 100 horsepower Gnome. Because of student difficulty in operating the Gnome engine, by mid-1918 production stopped after 93 were built. Towards the end of 1918, an additional 75 were built with the 80 horsepower Lerone rotary engine that was licensed built by the Union Switch Company. When World War I ended in November 1918, all orders were canceled. This is an original airplane. Built in 1918, wingspan of 24, cruise speed of 100 miles an hour. Gnome rotary engines.
Oh, you're offshore.
This is a 1916 Sopwith Pup. This is an original airframe, and according to the docents, this airframe will be restored to airworthy condition. One of the things I liked about going to this museum is seeing the old aircraft, but this aircraft in particular is really something special for me to see. I always like seeing the guts of an airplane without the covering on it, to give you an idea of the systems that are involved and the craftsmanship back in the day when these airplanes were constructed. The woodworking here is fantastic, and just to see the simplicity that was used to get airborne back in the day is pretty amazing to me. Again, this is one of my favorite airplanes. I spent a lot of time just looking at this airplane when I was down there, and unfortunately I didn't get quite as many pictures as I wanted, but nonetheless, just a great airplane. This is the 1929 Curtiss Robin. Originally designed as an affordable and practical aircraft that made use of then common World War I surplus 90 horsepower OX-5 engines, the Robin became a hit with private owners who wanted an enclosed cabin and an airplane with ease of operation. A craving for more power convinced designers to feature successive models with Wright Whirlwind engines and other engines. What the designers did not anticipate was the notoriety the aircraft would attract as an unlikely record breaker. Clearly, the Robin was never going to break speed records. However, daredevil pilots saw plenty of other opportunities in the sturdy aircraft. In 1929, Dale "Red" Jackson performed over 400 slow rolls without stopping in his Robin. Later, Jackson and Forrest O'Brien spent nearly 27 days circling over St. Louis. Their record was bettered in 1935 by Fred and Al Key, who flew their Robin for 653 continuous hours, almost a month in the air. Fuel was delivered from another Robin via hose, while mail, food, and spare parts came in a supply bag on the end of a rope. The brothers built a special catwalk on the aircraft in order to service the engine while in flight. The aircraft seen here is the Savoia Marchetti S-56. This aircraft was designed and built in 1929. It was designed by Alessandro Marchetti shortly after he joined SIAI, the Società Aerovolante Alta Italiana, which was destined to be the largest seaplane maker in Italy. This airplane is a single-engine biplane flying boat, trainer, and tour aircraft built by Savoia Marchetti. The wings were of unequal wingspan, and the upper wing was longer than the lower, and both made of wood construction. The instructor and student sat side by side in separate cockpits with dual controls, while there was a third cockpit just aft of the two forward cockpits. The aircraft was turned into an amphibian by adding a manually retractable landing gear. The aircraft seen here, N number November Charlie 349 November, was one of 6 built under license in the United States by American Aeronautical Corporation and used by the New York City Police Department during Prohibition years to intercept rum smugglers. The airplane is thought to have served with the CAP during the war on anti-submarine patrol. In 1989, its restoration was completed to a high degree of aesthetic accuracy, but this restoration would not make it airworthy. The Cradle of Aviation Museum in Long Island, New York, completed the restoration. The information board at the museum states that Mr. Weeks would like to restore this aircraft to airworthy condition and give rides to visitors to the Fantasy of Flight Museum sometime in the future.